fears in the maritime industry, a lot of need for support, So I'd like us to start, before we get to the very heated part of this conversation, let's start from what the group you represent, the seaport terminal operators, what have you done this period to ensure that the port industry is safe, because as much as it's been flagged, the necessary, everybody is an essential worker in the port industry. We really need to stay safe. So what has the seaport terminal operators done this period to ensure that stakeholders are safe and port users remain safe?
Thank you very much, Izine, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
We're glad.
I congratulate you for the good job that you are doing in keeping the information flowing and keeping us all on our toes in the industry. Of course, you are aware that I think the most important contribution of terminal operators is that during the lockdown, when everywhere else was in a total lockdown, the ports kept running. And I think we have not given ourselves enough credit in that regard. Because for the ports to have kept running meant a lot. Some people don't understand. Some terminal operators had to lodge their workers in hotels in Apapa.
Wow.
Yes, I know there are terminal operators that lodged over 500 people for the 4 weeks that the lockdown lasted in Apapa. And there are others that had to make special transportation arrangements for some of their workers. If you know what that means in terms of costs, it is humongous. So the idea then was just to keep the ports running, not just for the sake of it, but to ensure that there is no short supply of essential goods, food, and medications to Nigerians, including even items that are needed to fight the pandemic. So that was a huge sacrifice that you cannot even quantify in terms of naira and kobo, because it was essential to saving lives. It was also essential to, keeping the economy running and ensuring that there was no hunger in the land, especially within that first 4 weeks period of total lockdown. Now, apart from that, for me, that to me is the most important contribution. And I think terminal operators did very well in managing that situation. And you will see also that despite the fact that the ports were running, there were a lot of people going to the port every day. I was going to Apapa practically every day during that lockdown. I mean, Apapa was like busy.
Was the same.
Was the same, no difference. So, and despite that, you did not have a situation where infection spiraled out of control. It means somebody was doing something right. See, so now apart from that, monetary contributions also came up. Collectively, terminal operators donated 700 million naira to our government. The COVID-19 account created by the CBN was boosted by 700 million naira by terminal operators. Cash. Apart from, you're also aware that one of the terminal operators had to hire a cargo jet from Europe to fly in supplies from Europe to fly in supplies into Nigeria specifically. So in addition to most of the PPEs that you see all around the port, most of them were actually regulated by terminal operators in their various port areas. So
yes,
all of this, yes.
I'm aware that some of the terminal operators actually partnered with MPA in terms of donation of PPEs, you know.
They donated to MPA.
Okay.
And to also customs and to a few other. So I think that is.
That's quite commendable.
And of course, the standard, the compliance to safety measures at the ports to ensure that there were no. I mean, we didn't lose anybody in the course of the only one infection was announced, and it was curtailed. So
good to use the word announced. You know, it's good to use the word announced, but in spite of that, you know, what are you now doing to sustain the efforts? Because as it is, yes, we're returning gradually to normalcy, but it's still there, you know. The pandemic is still out there, maybe not at the terrifying scale anymore, you know, but it's still there. So what of your sustenance plan to ensure that the port industry is still safe?
No, the sustenance plan is part of the business continuity plan, which has been in place, ab initio. Okay? So the safety measures are there. They have even now been more institutionalized than before. I think all of us that go to the port now have gotten used to the facts of new ways of life. So I believe the sustenance is embedded fully into the business continuity plan that has been developed right from the beginning.
Gradually becoming a culture then. Safety measures are gradually becoming a culture. Okay, let's move to the topic of the day, port economics and Nigerian ports expensive. I know a lot of people are itching to hear what you have to say on this. Now, while preparing for this whole thing, I stumbled into about 3 different reports, studies, you know, by different bodies, intelligence organizations that claimed that Nigerian ports are expensive, you know, for various kinds of reasons. One seemed too high-handed in saying that we are actually the highest or most expensive port in the world, you know, followed by New Zealand. Then another one claims we're the most expensive in Africa. Now, as a player in the industry, if you were to look at, they gave their reasons, which we'll come to, but from your own angle, if you were to look at ports that are expensive, what would be the criteria you'd use in establishing that judgment?
See, the point I was going to say, if we talk of ports being expensive, and I do not dispute that.
Okay.
The point then is, what are the components of that expense? We have to drill down. It's not, the port is expensive, and then everybody begins to think, all the money goes to terminal operators or port operators. No. What are the components of those expenses? So we have a series of studies. I've also participated in several other studies, and every one of those studies points to 3 major issues.
Okay.
As a cost for the high cost of our ports. Reason number 1, cost of shipment into Nigeria.
Okay.
It is one of the highest in the world, shipping to Nigeria. That's freight costs.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you compare apple to apple, cost of shipment, say, from China to Ghana will probably be cheaper than from China to Nigeria.
I agree.
Even using the same vessel, okay?
Yeah.
So, and the reasons for that also, you can drill further, but then I don't want to waste your time. You drill further, you'll be able to identify why is that so, okay? So that is one. Key reason number 2, why our ports are expensive, believe it or not, is our customs duty. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people are unable to isolate this issue. Or maybe because it is government, we have just resigned ourselves to fate. Those studies you referred to, including a recent one done by Deloitte, indicates that 70% of the cost associated with our ports is charged by the Nigerian Customs Service. If we are going to be sincere with ourselves, trucking is expensive in Nigeria. It is cheaper to, even as expensive as it is to ship goods into Nigeria, it is even more expensive to move goods within Nigeria. It is cheaper to bring one container from China to Nigeria than to move that same container from Lagos to Kano. And cost of trucking has gone up like 5 times.
Okay, noted. But I would like to take this step by step. You've pointed out the cost of shipping, customs duty, and trucking. 3 major things, which are also embedded in some of the things that those studies also showed. But I know that from the point the vessel arrives Nigeria, for example, and the MPA brings in the vessel into the berth, and hands over to the terminal operator, we are also okay. This is no longer visible. From the time MPA, hands over to the terminal operators, the process of offloading, it's also another one. How long does it take us? Because one of the studies actually pointed to that the process of offloading. So you begin to ask the questions like, do we have appropriate equipment? Do we have enough equipment? Do we have enough manpower to take care of those jobs? The steel door, are they readily available at that point? So I'd like you to also speak to the process of what's the vessel turnaround time, for instance. How long does a vessel stay at the berth, and how long maximum does it take, for instance, depending on the size of the container, to offload these containers, where they are bulk or where they are container vessels, How long does it take us to do all these things? Because those things also account for extra costs on the part of the shipper himself. Or don't you?
Yes, thank you again. I am not sure anybody, in all fairness, is complaining about how long it takes to discharge vessel in Nigeria. There is no doubt about.
For example, in Benin Republic, it takes.
There is no doubt about the fact of the efficiency inside our terminals. I'm not sure anybody is in doubt of that. The turnaround time of vessels in Nigeria has been very good since after concession. Now, recently, perhaps you are alluding to what happened, especially in the last 4-5 months of 2019, when the federal government shut down the land borders. After the land borders were closed, there was a deluge unplanned for, and don't forget, port is all about planning. You plan, you prepare for volumes. Okay? So after the closure of that border, there was a surge, okay, at the ports, which was not planned for. I mean, everyone was caught unawares at the time, because you had a situation where volume suddenly jumped up by about 20%, as in some cases more than 20%. So as a result, and don't forget, evacuation, delivery out of the port was very bad because of the bad route. It was very slow. So backlogs were then beginning. We talked about the fact that congestion was building up at the time. So as a result, we were then having some vessel queues at the time. Okay? But eventually, after a few months, all the operators concerned have been able to invest in additional equipment and brought in additional equipment to how many of that. So that situation of delayed discharge of vessel happened just within a short period of about 6 months, and it has been addressed, and we're good.
Okay, so when we talk about new equipment, you said some of the terminal operators were able to get additional equipment. Like, how many of the terminals have improved upon this? Like the equipment they have for cargo handling?
No terminal in Nigeria today, to the best of my knowledge, has a shortage of cargo handling equipment. No.
Okay, so having addressed that, that is one line of it. Another thing that was named as a reason for our ports being expensive is the inspection of cargo. And that is what you've mentioned in terms of what customs does, you know. And I would like to ask a question. We still do 100% examination, physical examination, you know. Has this not affected the cost of doing business in our ports in any way?
Of course, that goes without saying. It's that's what I talked about initially. You know,
no, what I talked about was just customs. You did not go down.
Well, the customs duty, yes, is high. Also, the customs clearing process. Even one of the senior government officials once described it as archaic. So you have a situation where Nigeria Customs, that has nothing to do with terminal operators. It's the Nigeria Customs Service that inspects and releases. So what we have a situation where about almost 80% of the cargoes coming into Nigeria are manually inspected by customs before they are released. That slows down the transaction time. Of course, you know that time is money. So they do manual inspection rather than scanning, whereas elsewhere, manual inspection, because it's good to talk about, that port is good, that they do just about 5% of manual inspection, random manual inspection. But here, the opposite is the case. Here, manual inspection is well over 70%. And they do that, eventually they release, and right there at the gates, another unit of customs and other government agencies are waiting at the port gates. Just less than 1 kilometer apart, another one is waiting at the gate to go through the inspection again. And immediately you leave the gate at Leventis, near opposite the police barracks. You have another unit of customs waiting there to do another inspection. And it creates more costs, you know, to the cargo owner.
No, I also know that basically the challenges of terminal operators are tabled to before NPA, and there is a forum where both NPA, customs come together to see how everybody who is involved in it, even the truckers, come together to see how these things can be resolved. Now, I know that several of such meetings have held. Why have we not moved on from this physical examination? It's been in the front burner for at least the last 3 or 4 years. And the same excuses have been given, that our concessionaires are not, our concernees, they are not, what's the word? That they are not transparent enough, you know, false declaration, all that. So
by importers, okay.
By importers. So it can't be, if our strategy, which is physical examination, isn't working, how has that forum, which I presume that sea terminal operators also belong to, how have you fine-tuned any strategy, you know, to help us solve this thing of 100% examination? Why is it that scanners are not at our ports, you know? customs officers say that it is the duty of the terminal operators to provide scanners, So I would like you to react to this.
Thank you. And what did you tell the custom officer that said that?
I would like you to.
Sorry?
I would like you to react to that.
I mean, you know the answer to that. What will be your response to? I don't know. The concession agreement is there. When the ports were concessioned, the terminal operators were to run the terminals, right? And then you had what you call destination inspection service providers. I hope you remember.
Yes.
Cotecna, Global Scan, and SGS.
Yes.
I think, those were the three approved then. It was their duty to provide scanners. So it was a different thing. The issue of scanning has more to do with customs operations, and many times people don't understand this, and that's why they blame terminal operators, because they don't understand. The issue of inspection is within the purview of customs. The issue of providing scanners and using scanners is within the purview of customs. Customs is a different agency of government reporting directly to the Federal Ministry of Finance. So the issue of inspection is strictly that of customs. The issue of providing scanners is that of customs. The issue of even running the scanners is that of customs. It's unfortunate that all the scanners installed by the then destination inspection service providers have all packed up. They are not working, okay? And customs appears to be happy doing manual inspection, which, in my opinion, does not augur well for the economy and does not even help to promote the ease of doing business which government is promoting. So I think the way to go would be for customs to look a way to bring scanners back into the port. Okay, if they want terminal operators to provide scanners, of course, terminal operators will be able to provide far better scanners and even manage them on behalf of government. But it will be a different arrangement entirely. Terminal operators are very efficient. They will be able to provide and run scanners very well for customs. But it will be a completely different arrangement. It has nothing to do with the present concession arrangement. The present concession arrangement is with the Nigerian Ports Authority, which reports to the Minister of Transport. So you can see there are two different lines. It's Minister of Finance, Minister of Transport.